Testing. One. There we go. To know that we beat up on science a little bit, but I want you to know that all three of these guys, they've made a living doing science. So it's not that we don't like science. These guys, I don't like science. I never liked science. I mean, but I like it now. Anyway, but these three guys, that's how they made their livings in this life. And so I think you need to make sure you understand that. And just because we're beating up on these folks a little bit because they're not really being true to their science and the way they're supposed to learn facts and things, that we do appreciate science and what all the blessings that we have as a result of science. So anyway, keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. David, are you ready to talk about something that's, you have, now you're going to tell them that the climate does change, right?
Yeah, every day.
Every day the climate changes. Okay, so, but we're going to talk about a little more than that maybe.
Yep.
Okay, so here we go. And if he finishes early, which he may, because I know how many slides he's got, we'll ask questions and then we'll go home. So are you having trouble again, Dave?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm technologically challenged.
Yeah, I know that. You do have your mic on. That's better than usual.
Yeah. Well, I got to get it.
Would you like me to help you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that a good place? I'll put it on there.
I don't know. Talk. See if, back row. Can you hear him?
Can you hear me there? Okay, good. I'm halfway there. I keep dropping my mic. What I'm going to talk about are a couple things. Yeah, we're very strong on science. Like I said, we make our living that way. The problem is that what is taught as science today is fake, a lot of it. And we were indoctrinated, all of us, and probably you, with things when you're very young and uncritical and indoctrinated in these things and taught, grooved out so that you believed a lot of concepts. Two of them we're going to talk about are the Big Bang tonight and also the climate change, which is a more recent one. Now, one of the big problems that I had after I became a Christian, and even before, was the problem of the speed of light. And the reason, we have that up there, don't we?
Next week, Dave.
Next week, okay. One of them is the speed of light, and we're going to deal with that then. It has to do with the problem of how old is the universe. And we're going to get into some of that next week too. These things are taught as if they're fact, because that's Einstein's special theory, that the speed of light's always constant. Well, if that's true, then the universe has to be, well, they're up to 13.7 billion years because of the extent of the universe. It's really big. And now with this James Webb Space Telescope, they're off the charts. It takes, takes 60 billion years for these things to travel out in the expansion of the universe at the speed, traveling at the speed of light, which matter cannot travel at the speed of light. And then to send us light back in 60 billion years. And the universe, we know, is not, the stars are blowing up too often. But tonight, let's just go into this naturalism and its influences in modern science. Many scientists will not accept a biblical creation as an option. They've created their own history of the universe to exclude God. That's basically where they get into this. But you'll see, as in all forensics, pretty soon the pieces don't fit. And you have to start stacking things on top of things to fix it up. It's like a thief or a criminal when you catch them. They don't tell you the truth, so all the forensic investigator has to do is go start asking questions, and pretty soon the pieces don't fit together. The truth only fits one way. There's not many scenarios, and especially with history, it's fixed. You can't change history, so it only happened one way. Observational science has been excluded using the myth of deep time. If you have enough time, things will happen. The trouble is, with the most powerful law in science is time hurts you. Things don't go up at all. They get destroyed. It's called entropy, and we talked about that a little bit in the other one. Naturalistic theories are taught as truth, but are scientifically flawed. Current theories require continual modifications as challenges mount. In fact, they'll change the whole concept of the universe, like the Big Bang will change about every 5 years. The pieces don't fit, so you got to put a patch on a patch on a patch on a patch, and it does. So it doesn't. When you start patching it up, it looks like a quilt with lots of patches on it. Old universe cosmology, what they're taught is that space is warped. Einstein's theory of general relativity is that space is warped by gravity around celestial bodies and gravitational bodies. And the question is that true? Is time warped by wormholes around gravitational bodies? The reason you have to do that is that you have to make it so that the speed of light's constant. So you've got to change time and space and warp it. In other words, they think really time and space are not warped. They're linear in every direction. Time is passing at the same speed all over the universe. But if you do, because what is the speed of light? Space divided by time. And they make that a constant. Well, you got to keep tweaking these things to twist the whole universe. Big Bang theory. Universe is it an enormous Big Bang? Black hole. What a black hole is, they say the Big Bang explosion out of a black hole and becomes a white hole event is the question. What happens is they feel that this gravity pulls everything down. And if you have a very strong one, and that's what they think the Big Bang started out of, was a high concentration. In fact, the whole universe is concentrated in a space smaller than the smallest atom that we have, and it blew out of that. So that's why they call it a white hole event. It's not sinking into it, it's coming out of a black hole. Matter exploded into an expanding universe. Time begins. Black holes and wormholes in time may exist in the center of the universe. That's what they raise. Because when you look at a galaxy, there's a whole lot of light there. There's a high concentration. And in fact, we can't see the center of a galaxy, our own. You turn the telescopes toward there and it's just light. And so they think, and we get funny high frequency, high energy radiation out of the centers of these things. And that's why they think it's a hole. There's so much gravity it'll pull together. They say the universe is accelerating out because of the red shift of light. Because you know what a Doppler effect is? You hear it in sound. Yeah, all the time. You hear a truck coming for you, it's beep. Because it's coming toward you, the frequency's higher. When it moves away from you, the frequency's lower. Well, a Doppler effect is, they think that it's a Doppler effect, is if these things are moving away from us, the light will lose frequency. It'll drop. If it was moving toward us, it would blue shift because it would be squeeze the frequencies together. But they say it's red shifted because it's moving away. That's what a Doppler effect is. But it doesn't a Doppler effect. We'll get into that. Is dark matter and dark energy 60% of the universe? Why they think, let me tell you what's happening. If gravity was true, even if there was a Big Bang, things are going out, the center of mass would be pulling them back and slowing it down. They're saying, no, it's accelerating away from us. So, how do they explain that? They say there's dark matter and dark energy out there. 30% dark matter, 60% dark energy, and it's anti-gravity because it's being pushed out, moving away from us. And you say, anti-gravity. They say only 4% of the universe that we can see is gravity. There's dark matter and dark energy that's actually pushing the universe apart. accelerating it, in fact. Whereas if gravity was true, it'd be slowing down. So they create, you see where I'm going, how this patch on the patch gets? Okay? They know that they got a Doppler effect. They think it's because it's accelerating away or moving away. So they create dark matter and dark energy. Is that scientific? No. Are the dimensions of the universe? You ask the question, how did it get blown out to this dimension and then slowed down? That takes a lot of energy from a Big Bang to push it out that fast. And they said it happened in nanoseconds, trillionths of a second, and then slowed down. And you say, that's a violation of conservation of energy and matter. Very first law of science. You see how this thing becomes a web that they get caught in because the pieces don't fit out. Now, as we mentioned with the James Webb telescope, I brought that up last time, didn't I? Yeah. What it is they put that telescope out over 3 times outside of us, over 3 times the distance of the moon. And it sits in this place where there's no gravitational pull and it's looking out in space. And it's moving very slowly. It goes around with us. And what they show out there, now they're seeing galaxies out there that are 3 and 4 times what we could see with Hubble. So they won't talk about this because why? It couldn't even be blown at those distances, even at the speed of light, and then sent light back to us, as I mentioned. This thing gets worse and worse. It's a web. They're caught in their own net because they're trying to fulfill that this isn't a creation. This is a natural event that it just blew up and blew it out to these dimensions. Anti-gravity, pushing the universe apart. Is there any evidence of dark matter, dark energy? None. If it was out there, for instance, dark matter, when light was coming to us, it would be absorbed or warped. And if it gets warped, it'll turn into a rainbow. Light, when it gets refracted like that around gravitational bodies, it'll split it up into different frequencies. Well, we don't see the rainbow around it. And if it was there, it would stop the light from the other distant stars and galaxies. You don't have any of it taking place. So you see what I mean? This thing becomes more and more unscientific. You got violations everywhere. Anti-gravity? In fact, when this came out about 10 years ago, I've had some debates with a professor up at KU, a cosmologist, and Adrian Malott. I said, Dr. Malott, I said, we need to have a debate. And he says, what about? I said, well, this anti-gravity. I said, we can have a debate, and I'll defend gravity, and you can defend anti-gravity. You can defend evolution, and I'll defend creation. I said, all from science. Oh, no, he says, you're just making this, because I was a city commissioner in Lawrence. And they said, oh, you're just playing politics. I said, no, these are scientific facts. You want to defend them? I said, well, you take evolution and I'll take entropy. And he hung up on me. We'd already had 2 debates in front of the physics club up at KU, and all the students were laughing at the end of these things. These people live in a silo. I call it intellectual incest. They're inbreds. And they just feed on themselves, but they never think outside the box. I came outside the box, but they can't do the science I can do. The people that are creationists, we can do the science. We can put the men on the moon. The guys that are the best at that are the young earth creationists. You bet they are. You never hear them talk. Because the other guys, these guys like Malott, they couldn't put a guy any place. They can't work the equations. They can't work gravity. They got anti-gravity. They got all these crazy things. But you can't do anything with it. It's not science, is what we're saying. If you want to get real science, you go to the scriptures. We'll get into that next week. Light, it becomes very, very critical. It was the heart of Einstein's theories. Fix it at the speed. No, it's a variable. And you'll see that it reaches infinite speeds in deep space. Lots of things that are well known. These were known 40 years before Einstein. Gravity is scientific. Anti-gravity and invisible dark matter and dark energy are not. Redshift of light from distant galaxies is actually a loss of energy traveled from distant galaxies. If you want to call it, it's tired light. And the further it travels, the more energy it loses. And what does light do when it loses energy? It goes down. It redshifts. And the further it travels, what? The more redshift you have. So the light coming from the most distant ones will have the greatest redshift. It doesn't change speeds. Light doesn't change speeds. It changes frequency. Its energy is equal to Planck's constant times the frequency. That's the energy of light. So who are you going to believe? Science or these stories that they make up? Which, like he said last time, these are hypotheses. These don't even arrive. Einstein's theories, so-called, are not even theories. They're hypotheses. There's no proof for it, either in evidence or in theory, that you can use the laws that exist and develop them. They threw a lot of mathematics out there, but they're playing with mathematics. It's very interesting. I don't know if you know, before Kepler and those Galileo and those people came, they thought that the Earth was the center of our solar system, okay? And they had what they called epicycles. And they even built little models. And it shows like Mercury coming up and going like this. It doesn't even go across the sky. Venus, zigzag. And they build these little models. Now these models could predict, because they're geocentric, centered on the Earth. You can make formulas like that, and they'll predict where they are, but it has nothing to do with reality. We call them transformations. A lot of times to solve problems, we'll transform to another system and then bring it back, because no transformation has any physical reality. Instead of being heliocentric, centered on the sun, they were geocentric. When you go to a heliocentric, then they're almost perfect circles, slight ellipses around the sun. Now, let me tell you an interesting thing about that. I'm not a geocentrist. But you don't know from mathematics. I know that the Earth is not the center of mass of our solar system, but it might be the center of the whole universe. It sounds shocking, but the geocentrists may be right. The whole universe may be rotating about us, but we don't know. It's too big. You can't determine that. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you just brought that up, because on 2 slides you said, or it was written, the universe is accelerating out or deaccelerating out. Out from what? Out from the center. So then, where is the center of the universe?
We don't know. No one knows. And that's why when you come to these Big Bang people, you say, well, where's the center that it blew out from? It has to have a center.
Yeah.
Where's the center of the universe in your Big Bang? They don't even know that. I don't know that either. That's why I'm saying the Earth may be the center of the universe. I know it's not the center of our solar system. It's not the center of mass. But you have this problem in mathematics. You don't know. We don't have a point fixed in the universe that God has set up, except maybe the Earth, that you can say you measure everything off of it, distances and things like that. We don't do that. When we deal, and my colleague from MIT, he does the fancy stuff, that no one else can do for going around the sun, and putting those probes right on the moon. He did that. Putting them on Mars. They tried to use Einstein stuff and crashed them. And he said, no, you've got to go back to this. It's a modified classical view of the universe, of gravity and everything else. The speed of light's not constant. You can't send a signal out to there just in time, we call it, to execute it. It's never right at the right location. You have to preload your command to the thing. If you're going to land on Mars, you preload the probe ahead of time, and you use Newton's law, and you use radar, and when it gets to that point, it executes it. But they think, oh, the speed of light's constant, we'll just send it just in time. No, they crashed it every time. Wasted hundreds of billions of dollars trying to use Einstein's theories. It doesn't work. The speed of light is not constant. Why I say that, the signals you're sending are going at the speed of light. Radio signals, all of these electromagnetic radiations all travel at the same speed. But the speed of light's not constant. You send it there and the thing crashes. They said, oh, we mixed up metric units and English units. No, that wasn't the trouble. You're trying to use Einstein's theories. Space is not warped. The speed of light's not constant. And until you come to that reality, you're never going to get things. And we don't have time to talk about it. There's several other things that they can't understand. The Pioneer anomaly. Send a signal out to these probes that are way beyond Pluto, and have them send a signal back. It takes about 4.5 hours to get out there. And that's just to get to Pluto. Now we got probes out there. It takes 29 hours to send a signal out, now 4.5. And you send it out there, and it sends it back. Well, it always appears to be closer. Why? Because the signal went faster out there and coming back. It appears to be closer than we know where it is from Newton's laws. You got to do it with science. You can't do with these myths that they're creating for us. More problems. Laws of physics are violated on these theories. Conservation of momentum. When you have an explosion, okay, you have no momentum. When it goes off, you have an equal amount going in each direction, okay? The universe is lumpy. You don't have an equal amount going in any direction from any place in the universe. That's a violation. That's one of the most basic laws. The second one, angular momentum. When you have an explosion in space, how do you get rotary motion? And everything's in rotary motion. It has to be, because if it isn't, the big bodies will suck up the small ones. It's a fine balance between centrifugal acceleration, so you say centrifugal, and gravitational pull. You don't get any of it. And we know that from novas, which blow off. You see one about every 1 to 2 days in our galaxy. You see big ones, and we see them sometimes 1,000 years later, and they're still going out. No rotary motion, because gravity doesn't work with torques to twist anything, to give them torque. You don't get rotary motion. It's a conservation of angular momentum. None before, you'll have none afterwards. These are basic laws. These are taught in the elementary courses, and they violate them. Conservation of energy. Like we said, warp space. What warp space? Why would gravity work? Where's its energy source? What happened if something disappeared instantaneous, like our sun? What would happen? Does the space become unwarped? You know, they talk about tensors. These are things like springs. Say, where are your springs that are holding this thing together? What bends the space in? What bends time? That all takes the energy. Where does it come from? Do you see what I'm saying? We're going through basic laws. Newton's law. Anti-gravity, you can't have stable orbits. from a Big Bang explosion. You can't get that fine balance. It's almost impossible for us to do it with just a two-body system, the satellite and the Earth. And it always comes crashing in or going off. You don't get that from, how do you get that from an explosion? Stable orbits. And they have to be. Webb's telescope, we brought that up, seeing these things way out there, and now they don't know what to do with the Big Bang. They've got dark matter, dark energy, anti-scientific. They got the Doppler effect, unscientific, because it requires anti-gravity. All these things they create. It's a web that they're being slowly trapped with. Definition, significant, this is climate change. We're going to shift gears here because this has been a big topic lately. And in fact, we're trying to find out, some of us that know, and some people know a lot more about the weather here on the Earth and the models for it. And they're saying the Earth has been cooling down since 1998. We know from satellite imagery. It's not heating up. In fact, I don't know if you knew that, but in the 50s and everything, right on Time magazine, we're going into the deep freeze. We're going to freeze and everything, but we're not freezing. Climate change is, these are significant, long-lasting changes in the Earth's climate and weather. We do have some taking place. They call them solar minimums. They're 200 years and 11 years. Climate is an average weather conditions over long periods of time. Well, everyone knows it changes. You know, it used to be global warming. Well, now it's cooling down. What do they say? Oh, it's climate change. All because of CO2 that people are burning, coal and everything, putting in the atmosphere. Weather is a day-to-day atmospheric changes in temperature and wind, and you see it just this last week. We dropped down. Is minus 10 an average temperature? No. You know what the average temperature of the coldest day in Kansas is? It's on January 18th, and it's 18 degrees above. Average highs, that's the lows, the average highs are about 39 degrees. That's over a 100-year period. So it's always changing. What's behind the climate change? In the 1960s, there's the Club of Rome, false alarmists. They were warning of global warming. A few years later, they have a coming ice age. Warned of fossil fuel issues through carbon dioxide. Predicted crop failures and mass starvation by the year 2000. I mean, these are predictions from the Club of Rome. Created numerous falsified warnings over the past 60 years in order to gain control of political power and assets. It's a political issue. It has nothing to do with science. The top people in meteorology, the former head of meteorology at MIT is against it. The guy from Yale is against it. He says these are all false. There's no substantial basis. There's no models that support any of it. These are the top people in it. Does anyone do it? No, the media keeps pumping these other issues. It's a political issue. It has nothing to do with it. Here are some of the deals. You remember, experts say a new ice age is coming. That's on Science and Mechanics. Time, global warming. Time, that's the old one. Big freeze coming. Global warming is a hoax. Newsweek. The things keep changing. Weather changes, they change their agenda. Be worried. Be very worried. The polar bears are going to disappear because it's global warming around the Arctic. But in the Antarctic, they tell you they gained 1 million square miles of ice. We lost some at the North Pole, but we gained at the South Pole. Beliefs. Technocrats believe they evolved that they evolved higher than you. They're smarter than you. They gain control by creating anxiety and fear. Oh, the world's coming to an end. Well, my name's Penny, but I'm not Chicken Little or Henny Penny. Ooh. Oh, that's another good question. They think that, do you know how much carbon dioxide is in the atmosphere? We've got 78% nitrogen, about 20% oxygen, and 1% all the other gases, dry gases. CO2 is 1/25 of 1%. We have 20 times more argon in our atmosphere than we have CO2, and all life depends upon it. If plants don't have CO2, there's no photosynthesis, no food, and all mammals die. And it has, you know what the name of the weather is? It's water. 70% of the Earth's surface is covered with water, and it's a huge amount in our atmosphere, and that's what the weather is. The oceans are warm, we have storms. We can plot our weather in Kansas by the temperatures out there in certain points in the Pacific Ocean. And what creates those? Volcanoes underneath, vents, geothermal. The sun doesn't sit there and say this spot, it shines, there's a lens that just keeps shining on it as it goes by during the day, so that point in the ocean has global warming. It heats up. No, it's coming up from beneath. All the elements we have here, almost all elements are slowly radioactive. They're degenerating down to hydrogen, or some of them stop at iron, and they accumulate heat in the earth. That's why the center of the earth's so hot. And they bubble out. They get up so much, and then they bubble up through the oceans and heat up the oceans. And they come up from there, and it's hot, and then it spreads out. And you have storms when it heats up. When it cools down, the ocean, we do have climate change from the sun, but it's long-term stuff. Control of individuals' lives through restriction and ownership of energy and consumption. I don't know if you know this, but we are pretty sure that methane gas, natural gas, doesn't have biological origins. You have huge amounts, bigger than the Earth, in Saturn and Jupiter's. Their atmospheres contain more methane than the whole Earth. You can make the Earth out of it. And there's no biological origins. It seems that our fields are refilling from beneath. All it takes, it's a simple molecule. It's just one carbon, that you get heat and you get water and you'll get methane gas coming up from beneath. And it's refilling the Hugoton fields and others that we have around. That's why the price hasn't risen. It rose up way high and then it comes back down, methane gas. But we got plenty of it. Coal, got lots of coal. And you know where most of it is? A huge amount? Antarctica, made out of tropical plants. Wonder how that got there. Maybe a flood? Can't even grow a tree there. Siberia, I had a friend, his family were mining coal with the Russians up there off islands in the Arctic Ocean and shipping it out. And you say, well, there's climate change, yeah, but it's created by the flood, and since then it's been very moderate. They want to create dietary restrictions and access to targeted foods, so you want to make vegetarians out of all of us, because it takes 7 pounds of grain to get 1 pound of beef, for instance. 4 pounds of grain to get 1 pound of pork. And so it's control. They want smart cities where we all live in little huddled deal and don't travel any place, and all the rest of it. We're going to save the earth out there by not having people on it. You know? I'm saying, where's the science to this stuff? They want mobility and location. That's why you got all these, they want 15-minute cities, they call them. You don't go 15 minutes from any place. It's control. It's all political. Believe me, it's not scientific. I can bring the best scientists we got in the United States, and they'll tell you the same thing I'm telling you. This is a political agendas. Has no science to it. Eventually we would run out of coal, but we can go to nuclear, but they're against nuclear. Why? Because you can have free energy forever. We even have what we call breeder reactors. You can put some stuff in there and you'll generate more radioactive material than it consumes. But Jimmy Carter, who's supposed to know that stuff, he was against it. Nuclear power is clean. And it's not dangerous if you use it right. And you say, well, what do you do with that waste? Take it out and recycle it and get all the inert stuff back out and make it hot again. You just keep burning down. It's like having a long-term supply of in a wood pile. I mean, I'm telling you, this isn't magic. This is well known. And they say, well, it's dangerous. We've had guys living on submarines since the 1950s, right next to a hot pile, and they never have died. They're giving me a signal, yeah. Climate change predictions, it's all fake science. None of their predictions, did the Club of Rome, did their predictions take place? No. Did people starve to death? No. They had to pay us to store crops because we're growing too much. Subsidies. I own farmland, I know, I got out of that program. 1950s is predicted the earth would run out of fossil fuels, and that was echoed in the 1970s. It's false. 1960s, secular scientists feared a new ice age was beginning, warned of food shortages and erratic weather because of global cooling. False. 1970s, Antarctic ocean would melt from global warming and create dangerously high sea levels. False. 1980s, predictions of emissions from cars, factories, etc. would be catastrophic. False. Solar activity cycles linked primarily to the cause of climate change. False. Those, by the way, will be back. 20s, damage to the earth biomes will take very long periods of time to be renewed. That's false. They'll come back very quickly. You ever seen your weeds out there? Can you get rid of them 1 year and they'll disappear? No, they come back with a vengeance. 2013 predicted global warming per surface temperature data from a 15-year study. It's all false. I mean, I sit there and I say, who are these guys? Who's paid for them? They're paid by government grants, these people that are coming up with this stuff. It's the old deal. Find out where the money's coming from. Follow the money. And you'll find out where the things are coming from, political things. God's in control. That's the one thing you got to reach. If you don't believe in that, you're in trouble. God promised that the seasons will continue. They won't change. God has commanded us not to be afraid because he's in control. And God's word affirms the coming of a new heavens and a new earth. So even if everything goes bad with us, we got brothers and sisters living in China, living in Russia. Their lives they're going to do nothing in this life, but they're going to have a life to come. And those people that are running those countries, they're going to be in another place forever. Stand firm. While the earth remains, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease. Those are the guarantees that God gives us. And that's in Genesis 8. Thank you again. I'm sure you have some questions.
Well, we'll probably get thrown out of Tonganoxie after that talk. How about a question or two? We got a few minutes before we leave. Did you have something you wanted to share? Oh, a comment. You always have, Mike, you always have a comment.
Mike, your middle name must be Comment.
Well, no, because I was really interested in all your celestial stuff, Dave.
Okay.
So, words and names mean thing. I found this cool site because I wanted to know, it was a celestial name website.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to go there, it's http://www.brown.org. And it had a list of the coolest galaxy names. Number 1 was Ward. Number 12 was Mike. And I looked and Dave was like 2/3 the way down.
Well, you know, like I said, my last
There
name.
was a lot in there, and only you laughed.
Well, let me tell you. Let me tell you. I always laugh. People ask me, "Well, what's your last name?" And I said, "Well, it's Penny." I said it's the smallest denomination of money, but I said I'll always have a cent to my name.
Right.
And so all of us will live in a better world. We're going to be. None of you have a perfect world here. Even if we had a utopia, like in the millennium, you know, at the end, what happens at the end of the millennium? All the people revolt except the saints in one city, living under Christ in the perfect conditions. So the problem is our hearts of man. It has nothing to do with
The atmosphere.
atmosphere.
I'm just wondering what's going to happen with the fires in California and everything going up. And I mean, it's wiped out anything we've tried to do on our own.
Yeah, but did you ever see the beach there that happened? There's one building standing, and you know what it's made out of? My favorite stuff, concrete. And even the paint isn't burnt on the place. Everything's burned in every direction there. The guy, it was the waste management CEO that, he didn't build the house, he bought it. He says, I got piers down 50 feet preparing for a tidal wave, and he says it came from a fire from the other direction, burned all the way to the water.
Other comments? So I'm just wondering what they're sitting out there thinking about climate change at this point, so.
Well, that's the California fires. They'll use that for something.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's true, but, you know, we're working so hard in the United States to do away with coal, and over in China, they're building 100 coal plants a year.
They're
So how are we gonna solve this?
They're building one a week.
I mean, it's unbelievable, and they're asking us to make all of this concession. And then we get volcanoes out around the world, and we get fires. It's throwing all the, I mean, you know, God will take care of all of that.
The worst is yet to come, though, the tribulation. You read that book of Revelation, you say, oh. And even Christ said, if the days weren't shortened, no man would live, but for the sake of the elect. And there's a few people that survive that, become mortals in the millennium. But the earth is down to 100% of the water turns to blood, both in the sea and on the land. And the trees are burned up, 100%. The final deals of the vials that are poured out, it's terrible.
I sure hope we're out of here before that happens, right?
We voted.
Next week, Dave's going to go again next week. We're going to have Speed of Light. But before that, he'll start out with, like I said, talking about what does God say in the Bible about the way things ought to be with government, with relationship to Him, with families, with marriage, you know, some of those gender things, some of those trans things. We're going to talk about some of that. So it might be good to come back and arm yourself again on another few topics that are going on anyway around the country and stuff. So we'll see you then. Thanks for coming. We appreciate